Hi, my dear viewers. This is Dr. L. Tirupati, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, ABV Government Degree College, Jangaon District, Telangana State. Today, we are going to discuss about an important topic, that is John Locke's theory of natural rights and overview. This is very useful for BA final year as well as the first year students of first semester. After completion of this class, we will have about overall understanding about the what are the natural rights and what are their significance and their evaluation regarding the John Locke's interpretation is concerned. So this will be outcome of today's online class. So let us move to the introductory part. John Locke is among the most influential political philosopher of the modern period. He is the one of the most influential philosopher in the sense he have much influence on the glorious revolution as well as the American Revolution Bills of Rights. He has laid the foundation for those great revolutions. That's why he is called the most influential philosopher in this modern period. He, in his book Two Treatises of Government, as written in 1690, was very famous. He defended the claim that the men are by nature free and equal against claims that God has made all people naturally subject to monarchy. He argued that people have rights such as right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. Those are very important. That have a foundation and independent of the law of any particular society. These three um, rights have occupies a very important role in his theory of natural rights. The entire theory will revolves around the three these three fundamental rights. However, he argued that the people have he also argued that the usually claim that the men and men are naturally free and equal as part of their justification for understanding legitimate political government as well as the result of a social contract where people in the state of nature conditionally transfer some of their rights to the government in order to better ensure the stable, compatible environment of their lives, liberty, and property. This is the very one of the significant point. However, since government exists by the consent of the people in order to protect the rights of the people and promote the public good, governments that fails to do so can be resisted and replaced by with new governments. This is the very important point. Here, this point, what is implies that the the government is not if it fails to protect the natural rights of the citizens, then they can revolt against that government and they can replace the with another government. He is the first person who was said and in a democratic way of thinking. Locke is also the same as also important for his defense of the right of revolution. This is the very important point in this in his theory. And Locke's vision of social contract theory, political revolutions are sometimes justifiable. In justifiable means here the people or the citizens they are their rights are taken away by the ruler or some other thing. other persons. They have right. Then they could revolt against that injustification, uh, and they can replace the government with another new one. However, the British Whig Party quickly adopted the Locke's version of social contract theory to justify the glorious revolution of 1688. This is the one of the which resulted in the overthrow of England's king, and thus this is in turn provided the intellectual climate to justify the American Revolution and the rights expressed in the Declaration of Independence in the American Constitution. Thus, in a great way, in such a great way, the writer, the John Locke, has very influence on the these two important nation countries, that is the Britain as well as United States of America. Here, the quotation it reveals that the government has no other end but the preservation of property. This is also one of the natural right of the citizen. That is the right to property comes in this implication of this quotation. However, the reason why men enter into society is the preservation of their property. He also very categorically and organized the meaning in this quotation. The enter the men into the men enter into an agreement in this society just because of their preservation of property. This is a very important point we have to note down here. The government's role, he says that the primary role of the government is to preservation of the property, and the society, so the reason for men enter into the society just because of the preservation of the property or the protection of the property of the individuals. This is the very important quotations were quoted by John Locke regarding the fundamental the natural rights or concern, that is right to property. However, the another quote he says that the end of law is not to abolish or the restrain, but the preservation to preserve and enlarge the freedom of and for in all the states of created beings capable of law. Where there is no law, there is no freedom. Here says the here law is the natural law and the law which is established by the government, constitutional government. This is also one of the important quotation of John Locke. However, all mankind being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, property, or possession of that property. Here, this quotation also says that all human beings are equal, but they are equal and independent. No one have right to harm another one in regarding their right to life, right to health, right to liberty, and right to possession of property. These are called the natural rights of every individual, every citizen of the society. These are the important quotes delivered from the John Locke's ratings. These are the very important. However, the theory of natural rights of John Rights, perhaps the most central concept in John Locke's political philosophy is his theory of natural law and natural rights. Among them, the natural laws are the concept explained existed long before Locke as a way of expressing the idea that there were certain moral truths that apply to all people. However, regardless of the particular place where they lived or the agreements they had made, this is the very, very important. However, the most important early contrast was between law that were made were by nature and thus generally applicable and those that were conventional and operated only in those places where the particular convention had been established. This is the very, very important, another important point. However, this distinction is sometimes formulated as the difference between natural and positive law. Here, natural law, those that are not dependent on the laws or the customs of any particular culture or a government, and so are so they are called universal, fundamental, and inalienable. Inalienable means they cannot be refilled by the human laws or the governments. Though one can fortify their enjoyment through one's actions, such as by violating someone else's rights. Natural law is the law of natural rights. Here says this is theory. The natural law is the natural rights. They are invariably they are not inalienable means they cannot amended or modified by the governments. Why? Because they have came naturally. They have came predetermined of the political organization. Before the political organization, the social contract took place. They were there earlier, before much earlier than the agreement of that took place between the subjects and the ruler and the ruled. Means that the kings and the people, the ruler and the common people. So that is the social contract. As a result, they have entered into that contract, but prior to that contract, inception of that social contract, the natural laws or the natural rights have been existing since long, long time. This is the very, very important point which was mentioned by John Locke in the theory of natural rights. This is a very, very important. However, the natural rights natural rights of John Locke, they could be uh, classified into the following categories. Commonly, they are classified into the three. They broadly they have classified into basic rights as well as other special rights. Before going into the details, the the rights, three main rights have been incorporated in the natural theory of natural rights of John Locke. They are the here right to life, right to property, and right to liberty. This wheel of triangular wheel shows that these three kind of rights are very, very important for every citizen. These three rights are inalienable means they cannot amendable because no government have right to amend or modify these three kinds of rights because of they have given by nature. They have given they have existence since the nature is evolved. Evolution of the evolution means they have evolved since the existence of the nature means the natural process has been taking place. In the similar way, these three rights have been existing since the natural processes uh, going on. So here, these three rights are very important. Here, right to life means they have the freedom. They have the right to live. In Indian Constitution, we have that there are so many fundamental rights under Article 19. Uh, freedom to right to freedom, and Article 21 says the right to life. This is the very very important right, which was mentioned in the incorporated in the Indian Constitution under the category of fundamental rights in the part 3 of Indian Constitution. But here, um, according to Locke's, John Locke's theory of natural rights, there is no such kind of mechanism or constitution to categorically mention this, but the nature has given to every citizen, every individual has a right. Right, live is their right, yeah, right to life. Here it means what it implies that nobody have right to interfere into the another individual's life. Nobody can have right to harm the another one. Nobody can kill the another person because of nature has given every individual has a right to life. This is the one of the important first the foremost life, the natural life of uh, every citizen, which was given in the natural law, by natural law. However, the second most important right is that right to property. Here, the right to property is the an individual have, they according to their capacity they can earn they can earn the assets or the money for their according to their visa, and on basis of their capability, their caliber, they can uh, create the assets. So this is called the right to property. They can get the property, they can earn the property, they can uh, protect their property. That is called the right to property. It is also inalienable, means no government can interfere into the private uh, right property of an individual, because that was given by natural law. That is called right to property. He says that categorically, firmly says that John Locke firmly said that the right to property is a very important and for that purpose the government is required, the political organization and machinery is required to protect the right individual's property. If any government fails to protect the right to property of an individual, then the government maybe could be revolved or replaced by another one, just because of failure of protection of the fundamental the natural right, that is the right to property. So the main aim of the government is to uh, protect the property, protect the natural rights. This is the very very important interpretation of John Locke's political view regarding the natural rights are concerned. This is the about the property, right to property, right to life, and right to property. Again, the third one is important. One is the right to liberty. Here says that the right to liberty means the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the freedom of freely movable uh, movements or uh, opportunity. This is called the right to liberty. Every citizen, every individual having this kind of liberty. They have they every citizens have right to liberty, right to speak, right to move, right to move any place, and right to freely uh, join with other social organizations. This kind of right is called as the right to liberty. In this regard, the government have no role to prevent this kind of rights, because they have given by this also this fundamental, the right to liberty has been given by the natural law. So the government have no right to interfere into the right to liberty, into the personal freedom. The natural rights shapes the uh, government to by not to interfere into the uh, natural rights of the individual or a group of individuals. This is the very important interpretation of John Locke theory of natural rights. These three rights are very important for the progress of an individual and all round development of an citizen. Every citizen requires these three fundamental rights for their all round all round progress and as well as all round development. However, here also it says that the law says that the people have natural rights to life that are they are right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. But since these rights were natural, no one could take them away, including the sovereign government and king. Whether the king or the government, they have no right to take away this natural rights. This is the very important interpretation of the John Locke. He has this by saying this, he has limiting the government's rights to interfere into the affair of the of the natural affairs, into the natural rights are concerned. However, the no king have the right to interfere into the natural rights of an individual. Citizen is concerned. So here, that's why the limited government, the next another one important point we have to discuss here is that John Locke said that the government has the limitations because of the constitutional laws as well as the natural laws. So, into the natural laws are concerned, so far we discussed three laws: the right to life, right to property, and the right to liberty. Into the domain of these rights, the government have no way to take away these laws for their selfish ends, and even the king don't have such kind of rights to interfere or the take away the natural rights of the an individual or a group of individuals, group of organizations. This is called the important, and he puts by interpreting this kind of political interpretation. He has he has putting the limits upon the governments and as well as the king, the despotic rulers. Absolute power. He has checking the absolute power. He has putting the limits to the absolute power. He has making the checks in front of the absolute power, absolute authority by saying that the natural rights are no way to interfere by no question. No, the powers of the government or the kings have no right to even interpret or intervene into the natural rights domain of a individual is concerned. In this way, the John Locke has interpreted the limited concept of the limited government. However, if the government is created to protect the rights of people and the government has only the limited and the specific powers of the people. The government to give to people has to give their consent to give it. The government has the consent. The government has to take the approval of the people to take away this natural rights, because this is called the consensus, the agreement of the uh, ruler and the ruler. When compared with the Hobbes, interpretation of the social contract theory. He says that the absolute power lies in the hands of the monarch, but where it comes to the uh, be in the case of John Locke, he says that the such kind of unlimited powers are limited by the establishment of the natural law and the constitutional law. These are the very important points which were incorporated in the John Locke's theory of natural rights. So these are the very important. We will look into the we will look at the broader aspect of the rights of the government, natural rights of the citizen. They are broadly cla- classified into the two categories. One is the basic rights, another one is the specific rights. Under the basic rights, the first part of this theory of natural rights consists of basic rights which are derived from the laws of nature and encompasses such things as right to life, liberty, and property. This theory mandates that the highest priority be given to the individual's self-preservation and whatever is necessary to achieve the preservation of the individual. This is a very important point to note down here. This means the natural theory of rights of John Locke mandates that the highest priority given to individuals self-preservation whenever it is necessary to achieve the preservation of the individual. This is the very important. Self-preservation means right to life. This is a very important thing. However, that that in the state of nature, everyone has the executive power of the law of nature. I doubted not, but it will be objected. That is unreasonable for men to be judged in their own cases. That self love will make men portray to themselves and their friends. And on the other side, that ill nature, fashion, and revenge will carry them to fare in punishing others. This here, this is a very important point here that the ill nature and the passion and revenge will carry them to fare in punishing others. These three things led them to quarreling each other, to entering into the conflict with others, to entering into the quarreling, conflicting nature with others. But that's just for the three reasons. What they are, that the ill nature of the individual and the passion, that is the wishes or the wants and the revenge. These three will letting them an individual to entering into the conflict with the other individuals. So easily grant that the civil government is the proper remedy for the inconvenience of the state of nature. Second treatise, he said that in the second treatise of the treaty of his book. Second treatise, in this says that in this ill nature, when the individual's nature has ill nature and the selfish motive and enmity with others, this kind of this kind of concept has emerged, uh, came to mind into the individuals. Then to prevent this kind of uh, uh, enmity among the individuals, then the government is required. The necessity of the government is much more required. For that friendly, they inconvenience that entered into the nature of the civil government. Nature of the government is required. Civil government is necessitated for this to prevent this kind of ill nature passion and enmity among the individuals. This was stated in the second treatise of the social John Locke's book. However, Locke does not simply advocate an egoistic self-preservation, but also calls for the need to consider others as our equals. He says that everyone has an equal, but among the equals, some people have egoistic nature and ill nature and the enmity and fashion to have some more wishes and their wills. This made them to this led them to uh, again contradicting each other's uh, each other's. They are contradicting each other for the having this kind of motive natures. For example, the right to life is applicable to every human being, but we also need to take into consideration the preservation of others insofar as not to harming or killing them. This is the very important point. Right to life is applicable to everyone, but we also need to take the consideration the preservation of others as for as not harming or killing them. It means the every individual have the right to life, but they don't have at the same time they have the obligation to not to harm the other person or not to kill the other persons. They have right, but other side they have also obligations. Like a coin have two sides. One is the another side is the um, rights, another side the kind having the obligations. Like that, every individual have the right as well as the obligation. That the obligation means not having right is not enough, but you have to obligate oblige the other person's right. Your right is not in, it does not mean to kill other persons, but you are right, you have the right to life, but you have to respect other person's right to life as equally. That is a very important interpretation of the John Locke concept here. But however, Locke distinguishes between duties and liberties. A liberty is the power to do or acquire something in the absence of a prior duty. That is called liberty. The right to acquire property is a liberty, but that is if we do not take property that was previously owned by someone else. There he also said very important. The right to acquire property is a liberty. Means you acquiring a property is your liberty. But this is if you do not take property that was previously owned by someone else. You should not take away that property from which was previously owned by some ex person. We have you have, don't have such kind of right to take away or occupy that such kind of property. This is the very another important point in the uh, Locke's basic rights concept is concerned. However, we cannot steal property and anything. We cannot take the property or the and we cannot steal the property of other persons. We need to ask the owner for permission to sell his property. That is the very polite. This is the civilized person's nature implication here. Implies that we every person has the right, but he need to ask the owner of for permission to sell his property. Then only he have the right to take away such kind of property. Acquisition of property is also a duty, but that is because property restricts the liberty of others and imposes duties upon others. This is a very important because the property restricts the liberty of others and imposes duties upon others. If you want to confiscate the other's property, but you have to obligate their their opinion, and you have to take their opinion. Uh, Otherwise, you cannot take away that property. That implies that you are right. You have the right as well as you have the obligation. In your case you have the right, but in others point of view you have to oblige them, you have to obligation, you have to take their permission to take away that such kind of property, whatever it property it may be. Here children only gain natural rights when they mature. There are duties such as preservation not only of ourselves but also others. However, preserving other does not mean to help them to survive. This is also very important things. So far we have discussed all these things about the basic rights of John Locke's theory of natural rights. The second category of rights are called the special rights. The special rights are the second part of the theory of natural rights, consist of the special rights. They are non-consensual and consensual special right. According to Paul Kelly said that non-consensual special rights, as the name suggests, do not require the consent between two individuals. That's why they are called non-consensual. That means you do not need their consent while you taking this kind of uh, rights. You do not need their permissions. Those kind of rights are called non-consensual. They are non-consentable to the other persons. The main difference is therefore consent and non-consent. The relationship between a parent and a child is of such nature. However, Locke clearly states that not everyone can exercise non-consensual rights. A person who is not a parent can obviously not exercise this special rights because they don't have children. That's why they do not need to take others' consents. There are others consensual rights. They are called consensual means they are the consent of other person's opinion. However, the relationship is not chosen and thus consent is not necessary. So here relationship is being maintained by the uh, consent as consensual or non-consensual rights. The right to acquire a property and the right to punish are additional examples of non-consensual rights. However, consensual rights are special rights. On the other hand, are rights which are based on consent. In a sense, it is an agreement arrangement. It is an arrangement with other individuals in which power is transferred to another person or authority, such as political rights. For example, consensual rights exist as part of an agreement between two individuals to whom those rights belong. This is called the consensual rights. However, the other things, according to the another important element of John Locke's theory of natural right is that it bears the name natural means according to John Locke, the those rights are natural because they are free political. That is to say that everyone in the state of nature is entitled to get them, entitled to get them. However, pre-political is the state of nature. Pre-political is the state of nature which arises before any form of political authority. Thus, in sense, Locke's natural rights are similar to contemporary human rights. The contemporary human rights uh, have wider scope than the constitutional rights. The constitutional right, the main difference between the human rights and the constitutional rights are the constitutional rights are which rights, those rights which are mentioned in the constitution itself. The human rights are they are not mentioned in the constitution. They have the wider scope than when comparing with the constitutional rights. They are also called the human rights are also called in other way the universal rights for we know the universal declaration of human rights. They have called the universal declaration means they have the universal rights for every citizen. Their scope is wider than comparing with the constitutional rights of various countries. Here the constitutional rights have limited resources, constant as well as limited implementing machineries. That's why they have their narrow nature. They have in constant rights have narrow nature in their implicant, their scope is concerned. However, there is an important distinction to draw. Natural rights are prior to moral and cultural conventions. Paul Kenny says that the Locke's whole line of argument on natural rights rest upon the assumption that even without moral and cultural conventions, rights occupying in the state of the political authority, human beings would still have some natural rights that are binding on him. However, this according to law, we allow the workmanship of one omnipotent and the infinitely wise maker. So, what further makes those rights natural is that we are all entitled to them since we do not own ourselves but are the property of God. This is also very important point. Locke appeals to what human beings have in common rather than what makes them different. Locke's natural rights can be compared to contemporary human rights, but natural rights are product of political. Natural rights are wider in scope, so as for they have less restrictions. Locke's natural rights are not the product of political, legal, or social conventions, but held in virtue of our common nature. Locke emphasizes that his natural rights are not simply a claim to a right, but suggested that by simply being human, we have certain inalienable rights that are hence pre-political. They are as considered as a pre-political because the before the all the rights have the natural rights have the before the organization of political machinery. The at the time of the natural rights existence, there is no clear-cut political organization. That is called pre-political. They are the pre-political means before the form of governments came into action, they have existed. And many men being by nature all free but equal and independent. No one can have the foot out of this state and just subjected to the political power of another without his own consent. This is the very important. This point was stated in the second treatise of the John Locke. And the other important uh, the other important uh, evaluation of this concept is very important thing. this is a here Log theory of natural has came under scrutiny of many ways. Some ways we will uh, look into these aspects before going into the we have to go into the another important aspect, that is the lacks affirmed form and explicit right to revolution. That concept has said that the every citizen have the right to revolt the person. Here says that here the law, whenever the legislators or the endeavors to take away and destroy the property of the people or to reduce them to slavery under arbitrary arbitrary power by put themselves into a state of war with the people who are thereupon dissolved absolved from any further obedience and are left to the common refuse with God have both provided for all men against force and violence. This means whenever therefore the legislators shall transgress their fundamental rule of society and either by ambition or fear, follow or corruption, endeavor to grasp themselves or put into the hands of any other an absolute power over the lives, liberties, and estates of the people. By this breach of trust, they forfeit the power the people had put into their hands for quite contrary ends, and it devolves to the people who have a right to resume their original liberty by revolting, by revolution. Here, this uh, map shows that here the government, here is the people. This shows the yellow color portion of this map shows that the people, and this yellow portion of this map shows that the government. Here, this blue color portion of map shows that the social contract. This was contract made between the in between the people and the king or the ruler or government. That is this was came into just because of the social contract theory. If the people, the people, how the government has to protect the rights of the people, then they are obeying they will obey the government's order. If the if the government gives the power, the people gives the power to the government because of the government protecting them. So in this way also they are respecting the government and obey the government order, rule and government's administration and governance. But when the government or kings misuse the power, then the people have power to replace the government or revolt the government against this. Arrow mark shows that here, if the government is misusing power, then the people revolt against that corrupt government and they will replace this government or this king or the monarch, whoever he may be. This will of map shows that the importance of the people. The sovereign power lies with the people, in the hands of the people. The people, the rulers or the monarchs or the kings who are not going against if they are going against the wills and wishes of the people, at that time, the moment they violate the people's rights or the taking away their natural rights, then the people have the right to revolt against the government. This is called the wheel of exchange of change of the power. Just because of the social contract theory, they have entered into the agreement, but the ruler has to protect and save their lives. This is the very important uh, map. It shows the reveals a lot of meaning here and interpretation. This is the one of the beautiful interpretation of John Locke's theory of natural rights regarding the power and corrupted power. Absolute power, when they misuse the power, then the people have the right to revolt against the power. If the government or the king protects their natural rights, then the people won't revolt against them. They obey the rules and regulations of the government, and they obey the orders of the government. If the government fails to protect the people's rights and the wishes of the people, and they go against the people, they have the right to revolt, and they can change the replace the government there by new another government. This is the led the glorious revolution in the England, as well as the Bills of Rights in the the American Constitution. This is the very democratic way of interpretation of John Locke's natural theory of uh, right, natural theory of rights. The people are the sovereign here. The people have the having all power within their hands. The ruler is not at all a dictator or the arbitrary misuse of power, and they are not omnipotent. Like Hobbes proposed the absolute monarch, but here Locke limited the absolute monarch, and he said that the limited government, that is the government of checked government, means the limited and checked by the government, the restricted government, that is called the limited government. In the sense, the government should be checked by the people. The government is don't have discriminated power, absolute power, so to go against the people's will or the take away the fundamental natural rights of the people. This is one of the important and most significant interpretation of John Locke's natural theory of rights. However, the political authority for Locke is a kind of trust, trust where each man has the right to interpret and enforce the naturalized entrusted to the government. Locke is always aware that there is a scope for government abusing the rights of the people, and hence makes it clear that the legitimacy of the government rests on the ongoing consent of the people. The whole process of the obeying the state is conditions upon the state's guarantee to preserve the right to life, right to liberty, and right to property or estate. This is a very important interpretation. However, the formation of the state does not mean the surrender of all rights up to the state. It should be stressed here that the contrast among the individuals to form the state is only due to the inconvenience of force faced by the society, which does not, however, implies sacrificing the fundamental individual rights enjoyed in the state of nature. The state is created only to make laws and execute them, but not except not nothing more than that. In the other words, the ultimate sovereign power resides with the people. In this regard, it is said that the legislative body enacts rules as well as people agent is accordance with the law of nature, and the executive power, to which Locke also stated that the judiciary enforces the legal system. Uh, Unlike Hobbes, Locke suggested that the division of powers and rejected the idea of absolute sovereign. Here means a division of powers between the executive branch and the legislative and the judiciary. The division of power, Locke felt it is necessary for following reasons. They are, it may be too great at a temptation for human frailty adapt to grasp at power. For the same person who have the power of making laws to have also right their hands to power to execute them. where they may exempt themselves from obedience to the laws. They make and reshoot the law both in its making and execution to their own private advantage and thereby come to have a distinct interest from the rest of the community, contrary to the end of the society and government. This is also one of the important interpretation. However, it may be too great a temptation for human faltry after to grasp its power. For the same person to have the power of making laws, to have also their own hands to power to execute them, whereby many exempted themselves for obedience to the laws that make the suit in the law both in making and execution, but their own private advantage and they came to have a distinct feature from the rest of the community, contrary to the end of the society and the government. It is clear from the above that conception of state as a divided by law is quite antagonistic to the idea of an absolute state with the power to exercise authority arbitrarily. The legitimacy of the government for law is rooted in the consent of the people. The political association is created as an instrument to provide a framework for securing the individual freedom in order to enabling them to satisfy their private ends. And owing to membership in a political community, they are provided with both the responsibility and rights, duties and powers. Contrasting the other liberties, law whose version of political obligation has resulted in inauguration of one of the most central tenets of European liberalism. That is that the state existed to safeguard the rights and liberties of citizens who are ultimately the best judges of their own interest, and that according the state must be um, restricted in scope and constrained in practices in order to ensure the maximum possible freedom of every citizen. However, however, Locke, Locke has given Locke has endorsed his political obligation to the against the government that violates natural rights of individuals. And the other the Locke's theory, if you come to the uh, evaluation, the Locke's theory of natural rights have come under scrutiny in a number of ways. Some says that his theory of natural right is only one of the duties. Although Locke's theory encompasses duties, it also incorporates liberties. For example, the right to life is a duty and the right to property is not a duty. The distinction being violation in so far as the right to life comes with the duty to preserve the another's life, while the right to property does not oblige one to own property. This is also one of the great um, critics says that there is no clear cut distinction between the right to obligation and the right to life. However, the concept of duty plays in an important role in Locke's account of natural rights, but the concept of liberty is equally significant. Liberal thinkers Nozick believes that we have the right to notice suicide, whereas Locke thinks that we do not have that liberty. Thus, the need for self-preservation becomes a duty in so as far as we do not have the right to kill ourselves. Logic claims that human beings own themselves and should not be considered as a property of God. This is also one of the important interpretation given by uh, Locke and others. Locke's theory of natural rights has come under other some other scrutiny, and some says that the Locke's theory encompasses the duty, incorporation, and liberty, but there are no clear-cut distinction. The concept of duty plays a very important role, but that is not clearly, and the limitations on the property in the state of nature. While Locke argues that the men have a right to create and enjoy their property, he also argued that there are limits to that right in the state of nature. The first limit is alluded to when he describes how property is created. There is no clarity. However, while their use of money is a reasonable way of getting around the difficulties of storming wealth, its consequences are profound. Money permits the more industrial and rational, and therefore the more productive to accumulate the products of their labor, and thus to increase their wealth relatively less industrial or tenanted. This is also one of the limitations were leveled against the John Locke. However, Bill Murray Ken, Kendall's study shows that the John Locke and the doctrine of majority rule was intended to eliminate the general problem of the status of the principle of majority rule in societies. This is also one of the important drawback. However, the fact that there are limits to the right to property does not make it less individualistic. However, God, God may have given the world to men in common for their use, but God also have gave individual to right to create their own property to make use of it to any purpose. This is also one of the important critic. And another most important critic, writer Cox carries in his reading of Locke a bit too far to be completely persuasive. In Locke's state of nature, there is certainly relative poverty and some strife, but the level of each is inversely correlated to level of others. How it was emerged, it is a very difficult to elaborate in this concern. Locke has failed to elaborate this uh, in this context. He has argued that, however, according to Macpherson, Locke's major achievement in his theory of property was the base to right to property, right to property and natural rights and natural law, and then to remove all the natural law limits from the property to right. He believed that Locke wanted to justify unlimited right to property in order to ground the primary feature of capitalistic society, unequal ownership of property in natural law. This is also one of the important critic level against from John Locke from Macpherson. This is also one of the important the John Locke, the natural theory, the right to property has intensified the further intensified the private corporations and private capital society. That's what in the Karl Marx point of view, they are given more scope for the bourgeois society, the capitalistic society. They they may cheat the society as a result. The society may be again further divisionalized, became decisive because one kind of society having much property and another one kind of group in the society have no property. That is called haves and have-nots. This division of asset became division of labors, and the discrimination of assets and discrimination of labors will take place as a result of this kind of in indiscriminatory having of lack of having of lot of property, own property, right to property. This is the one of the danger uh, obligation raised by other many critics. So, in this way, there are so many critics might have leveled against the John Locke's theory of social contract and John Locke's theory of natural rights. That is, the right to property has so many critics as well as it also so many merits also. Many persons have uh, uh, said opinion about the creation of private property may lead to the misuse of property and division of society in the state is concerned. Those are the main drawbacks. But is and another point is the uh, absolute position of individualism over the majoritism. This is also one of the contradictory point in uh, John Locke's right to property is concerned. However, despite the above said drawbacks, few drawbacks, but the Locke's theory of natural rights is the very important, and it is has the it has upholds the constitutional and the governments and the it also limits the governments and it also first time says that the power every power the individual have the right to revolt against the government if it is not up to expectation of the people or if it is against the natural rights of the people, if it take away the arbitrary and the fundamental rights of the or the natural rights of the people, then they have the right, the citizens, the common citizens have the right to revolt against the uh, despotic government. This was the first time in the in the middle in the 16th and 17th century said by the first liberal philosopher. He is considered as he is the one that is John Locke, the first person. He showed the democratic seats in the writing of revolt the revolution revolt against the revolt the common people against the arbitrary authoritative rulers, that kings or the governments, despotic kings or the monarchic powers, monopolistic and the monarchic uh, oriented rulers. They have the people have right to mm, replace them, thus kind of monarchies, and they can replace it by another democratic form of governments. These are the very important interpretation and the contribution of John Locke regarding the natural theory of natural rights. So this is the with this is all about the today's online class regarding John Locke's natural theory of rights or concern. In the next class, we will discuss about the John Locke's theory of social contract and its uh, evaluation. So, with this, I am going to wind up this class, and I am very grateful to my dear students and my viewers for your patient listening and your cooperation. Thank you very much, and I am grateful to every viewer. Thank you, one and all.